CSX Railroad is being sued by 10 families. They accuse the company of negligence, resulting in a surge of water heading toward town.
Now, if all this sounds familiar, it's because our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, has been uncovering these details since last August.
Jeremy, your reporting is cited in this lawsuit.
It is, Tracy. It cites how we used a drone to show exactly where the surge of water came from. Now, this lawsuit claims CSX Railroad not only failed to clear debris that caused that backup, but that they knew the water was rising behind their raised tracks and failed to warn the town.
Everything was taken from her.
Since the flood last August, Michelle Feliciano is haunted by her 7-year-old daughter's final words.
I constantly remember hearing my daughter's last call out for me, and I couldn't get her.
Feliciano joined 9 other families in announcing they're now suing CSX Railroad and a landowner, saying the surge of water that killed their loved ones wasn't an act of nature.
This was a man-made tidal wave. That's right, man-made tidal wave that came into this town, changing the lives of everyone forever.
The lawsuit follows a series of News 4 investigations where drone footage revealed how water burst through raised earth after building up behind CSX railroad tracks, acting as a kind of levee. Now, this lawsuit claims the railroad failed to clear debris from their culvert at Trace Creek, essentially clogging the creek and backing up behind their tracks. And when the water burst through, sent a torrent of water rushing into the town.
We do believe that there was negligence, and we do believe that this was preventable.
In a statement to News 4 Investigates, CSX Railroad wrote in part, CSX track and related infrastructure is maintained and regularly inspected in accordance with CSX policies. But this isn't the only time CSX has been criticized for creating flooding. In New York State, you can see the debris that's washed up behind a CSX bridge, prompting criticism from state officials that it's partly to blame for flooding in that region. Back in Waverly, the lawsuit seeks $450 million in damages.
It's about justice. That's what we're really seeking here, is justice.
We also attempted to reach James and Sherry Huey, landowners who are also being sued, accused of allowing CSX to keep debris on their land that helped to clog the culvert that day. But we were unable to reach them by our deadline. Tracy.
On the day the head of FEMA towards flood-ravaged Waverly, WSMV4 Investigates has uncovered a potential flooding threat once again outside that town. Since the day 20 people drowned, we have been investigating why residents describe a surge of water from Trace Creek that they believed caused the deaths. That's why our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, actually waded into Trace Creek to see it for himself. Jeremy is here with us tonight. So, Jeremy, what were you looking for?
Okay, so here's what we were looking for, Tracy. We wanted to see if the creek was still clogged with debris. Now, to understand why, you got to go back to 2021 and drone 4 footage that we've shown you several times, where Trace Creek backed up and flooded over the railroad tracks, ultimately breaking through raised land and surging the water towards the town. So why did that water back up? Well, a lawsuit claims that CSX Railroad failed to clear the culvert of debris before the flood. So we returned to the creek and that culvert, and what we found has flood victims worried that another deadly flood could easily happen again. What Jessica Mallard saw when she opened the back door,
it was crazy how quick the water just started coming out of nowhere.
Was nearly as scary as seeing floodwaters halfway up the windows of Eastbrook Animal Clinic last August.
It was terrifying because it was so high outside. I'm like, if any of these windows break, like it's just gonna suck in here and I don't know what I'm gonna do.
The clinic is just down Highway 70 from Trace Creek. When the surge of water broke through, it was directly in the water's path.
I cried for a long time. It's hard not to.
So when WSMV4 Investigates showed the clinic staff what we found in the creek, this was their reaction.
It's terrible. Like it's gonna happen again if they don't get that out.
I'm gonna drop it in the water.
I took our cameras into the creek.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Where the water runs underneath a railroad culvert. It's right here that a class action lawsuit claims CSX Railroad allowed various debris to clog its culverts, creating significant blockage to the flow of Trace Creek. New photos obtained by WSMV4 Investigates from the day of the flood shows the water pooled behind the railroad with Highway 70 on the other side. This is before it broke through. This is after. The water washing over the highway and heading towards town, almost like a levee breaking. All that damage, again, blamed on a clogged culvert. So when we returned to the creek this month, roughly 100 yards from the culvert, this is what we found. A mountain of debris on the creek bed, including a massive tire and a pile of limbs, trunks, and branches. People living downstream worry if there's another heavy rain, all this will be washed once more to clog the culvert.
If you get one tree washed, crossways of that, we're done. It builds up again.
And there's more. The creek is full of rock and gravel, and it's now piled up underneath the culvert. You can see it's cleared here, but look right next to it. Much of the opening is now covered by it, limiting how much water could pass through. It's piled so high that I can stand on top of it and touch the culvert.
You can't leave that in the creeks like that.
Today, we took all of this to the top administrator of FEMA. We went back in the creek and we found that there is a good amount of debris still in that creek. Is that a solution to preventing flooding, is going through these creeks and dredging them out?
You know, I don't know the specifics on the creeks here. I would have to defer to your state and local officials to give you a better answer on what the specifics of the nature of the problem is here.
So we did just that and asked the director of the State Department of Emergency Management. So the concern is that if we get another rain, that's just going to push all that debris up into there.
The creek needs to be cleaned out, right? So there are places where it's clean, where homeowners, where it has easier access. We'll take a look at how we organize that and help the community get Trace Creek cleaned out.
It was at one time a pretty place.
When Darlene Tungette looks at what was her garden,
All back through there I had butterfly bushes and tropical plants.
a flood of memories hits her.
It was a nice backyard. Worked hard on it.
This was the home she raised her family, including her daughter, Amanda Maples. Now both their homes are boarded up. Caution tape sticks to the front door.
My mama being rescued.
The site of a dramatic jet ski rescue they don't want to return to.
After 3 floods, I'm tired. I was so tired. I didn't want to rebuild, redo anything. I was ready to move on. I asked my grandsons, I said, how would you feel living with your grandparents again?
While they moved up the hill to higher, safer ground in this new home, that doesn't mean others are.
Not nearly anybody's fault. It's just the lack of conversation that we need to have.
It's also why Amanda joined the coalition Flood Ready Tennessee. She says there's a whole list the state and Humphreys County must make to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Could cleaning the creeks out help? Sure. Could widening culverts? Sure. Could making water sheds happen? Sure. Could making areas just a non-building area help? Absolutely.
Right now, the Army Corps of Engineers is writing a review of the incident. That could take up to 2 years.
I feel this area might be a part that you wouldn't see homes in.
Amanda says the review could recommend this neighborhood where she grew up becomes a green space. However, that doesn't stop developers currently building homes in the area, an idea her family wanted nothing to do with.
If I can take what's happened to us and be a voice for the people who've done so much for us, absolutely will.
In Waverly, Marissa Sulik, WSMV 4.
Snow now covers fallen trees and fills the inside of homes where the roof was blown away during last month's tornado. A resident I spoke to here says that the last month for Kingston Springs has been hectic.
In Kingston Springs, snow now covers the scars left behind by an early December tornado.
It only lasted 10 or 15 seconds, and then when we came out, everything's destroyed, trees gone, vehicles gone.
Nearly a month later, trees are still down and roofs are still gone.
The snow on the tarps on the roofs, that's been a big concern of several people.
Shannon Pickard says now, as they try to return to normalcy, he and his family are just playing the waiting game on a contractor.
We just work around the damage and working on cleaning out the end of the house that is destroyed, basically.
Does it feel at all like you guys can't catch a break when all this stuff happens?
It does sometimes, but like I said, we're just thankful to be here. We'll roll with the punches, do what we need to do, and keep going.
And somewhere underneath the snow and despite the scars is the community he loves.
We're still here. We're just very thankful.
I already know I'm probably going to die, so I'm not going to go down without a fight.
For the first time, the only known survivor of a suspected serial killer tells her story on News 4 Investigates. At the top of the hour, we showed you what News 4 Investigates had uncovered about long-haul truck driver Roy Nelsh.
And why that evidence leads investigators to believe that Nelsh had other unknown victims. There is, to this date, only one woman who police know was able to escape Nelsh.
Our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, traveled to Orlando, Florida to find her.
Abby Pimentel was already in trouble
My car battery went dead, my phone was dead, everything was dead.
before she was in danger.
It's just like tons of traffic, you know, and you're just sitting there like a sitting duck.
The mother of two found herself stranded on I-24 on May 22nd, 2019, when a semi-truck did a U-turn in her direction.
Eventually, Roy Nelsh did pull up behind me and asked me if I needed help, and I said, yeah, I do. I was to the point where I felt desperate.
Desperation would soon turn to fear when she says the man behind the wheel, Roy Nelsh, did not get over at the next exit. She asked him to pull over.
So I grab my purse, I look up at him, and I'm thinking I'm about to say thank you, and he has a gun pointed at me. He said, this is a kidnapping, I'm gonna rape you, get in the back of the truck.
What Pimentel did not know at the time is what investigators would later find inside Nelsh's truck: a bag of bloody women's undergarments, a knife, guns, a stun gun, and a bloody rope. What she did know is that she wasn't going to go quietly.
I already know I'm probably gonna die, so I'm not gonna go down without a fight.
In a later police interrogation, Nelsh says Pimentel threatened to rob him and describe what she did next.
She come on loud. She started hitting me and beat me. I jumped back.
We're wrestling for this gun, and he's on top of me, and I have the gun pointed at his face now. I'm on the bottom, he's on the top, and I have the gun pointed at his face, and I pull the trigger, and nothing happened.
It's unclear why the gun didn't fire, but it wouldn't matter, because Nelsh would later tell police he had another gun.
Whenever she grabbed the 25 and she's trying to turn around on me, and I reached under and got the 40 and hit her in the head with it.
He just bashed me over the head with it really hard, and I mean, I remember feeling warm liquid pouring down my face, and I didn't know at first what it was, but it was blood.
Then came the handcuffs.
He put my hands behind my back and put handcuffs on me, and at that point I remember thinking, okay, Abby, just comply with what he says, or pretend you're complying at least for right now, because he's gonna get complacent at some point, and that's when you're gonna make your move. You're gonna do something. You're not gonna go down.
She says Nelsh placed a blanket over her using a paper towel on her head wound.
While he was wiping the blood away from my face, I asked him 3 questions. I said, are you gonna kill me? He said, no, I'm just gonna rape you. I said, how long are you gonna keep me for? He said, a few days. I said, are you taking me somewhere scary? And that's the only thing that I could think of to ask, because I kept thinking of those scary movies going through my head, you know, and he's gonna have me in some cage and with all these knives or something and torturing me or something. Like, I kept thinking that way. And he said, no, you're gonna stay in the truck with me. I'm just taking you somewhere isolated.
Now, once again on the highway, she says 2 faces came to mind.
And I would think about my kids, and like every time I would think about my kids' names would go through my head, and I'd just get this adrenaline, like this crazy amount of adrenaline go through my body, and I'd be like thinking, you don't have the right to take away their mommy.
Once a soldier herself at Fort Campbell, Pimentel says she got ready for battle.
First I had to get my hand out of this handcuff. Honestly, I didn't care if I ripped my whole arm off. I was not going with that guy. I was not going to be raped by him. There's no way.
So how did you do it? How'd you get your hand out?
I ripped it out as hard as I could, as hard as I possibly could, and it hurt, but I didn't care.
Once she was free, she says she had to make a desperate decision to throw the blanket over Nelsh's head as he was driving on the interstate.
He's all over me, beating on me, kicking me.
Were you driving at that point?
Yes.
When she put the blanket on you?
Yes.
I was absolutely a crazy, savage animal, like fighting for my life. It taught me that I will do anything to survive.
Eventually, Nelsh pulled over, to her surprise, offering to unlock the remaining handcuff.
I remember I jumped out of the semi. I had one shoe on, one shoe off, the other shoe's up in the semi, half a dress on.
He said something to you as you were leaving. What did he say?
He said, I never expected you to fight that much. I've never had anyone fight this much before. I was like, whoa, he's done this before. Like, wow. I thought, who am I dealing with here?
After she flagged down help and gave descriptions to police of the truck, Nelsh was soon arrested. Later, she learned what investigators found in the truck.
The boat rope with blood on it, that was, like, what on earth was he gonna do to me? That's another question that constantly goes through my head, you know, how was I gonna die that day?
Do you sometimes think about who else has been in that cab with him?
Absolutely, all the time, and I wonder, and it's just, there's not a day that goes by I don't wonder or think about that.
A Nashville man is heartbroken tonight after his wife and mother were stabbed yesterday within hours of each other.
Metro Police say the man's brother is the person who did it. WSMV4's Courtney Allen spoke with the family tonight. Courtney.
Tracy Lauren, Rashad Donaldson says he and his wife both grew up here in Nashville. They even were in the same kindergarten class. Rashad says that he was planning to celebrate his wife's birthday today. Instead, he's planning her funeral. Rashad Donaldson says his wife, Jasmine, is his rock.
Jasmine was strong for others.
They share a 7-year-old daughter, Zania.
A height of joy in my life, it was when I came and put my arms around them.
The girls were home Tuesday morning while Rashad was at work when his phone started buzzing.
My brother had texted 911. I called my brother back, and he was distraught. He was telling me about my mom. You know, mom's been through this happened to mom.
Rashad left to drive to his mom's house when he got another call.
My mother-in-law calls me. She says, hey, you need to check on Zania. Go to the house right now. Something's not right.
Rashad calls Zania.
She's crying. She's like, hey, I think mom died. You see what I'm saying? Like, hey, I think mom died. She won't say anything.
Metro Police say Rashad's brother, 32-year-old John Donaldson, went to Rashad's house and stabbed Jasmine to death. This was after police say John had already gone to their mother, Jacqueline Pritchett's house, and stabbed her to death.
I'm so caught up in my wife that I know that at some point in time, I gotta deal with the reality that my mother's gone.
In the quiet outskirts of Linville, Tennessee, farmland puts neighbors at a distance, giving people like Jim Grimes and his wife Dawn their own oasis.
As soon as we pulled up the driveway, we both knew that this is where we wanted to be.
Dawn and Jim, married 15 years, knew this land would be the perfect place to spend retirement. A serene spot with horses, goats, a pig, a home their blended family of 4 and their grandchildren could gather for holidays.
No better place to be than, beautiful Giles County, and it truly is a beautiful little community, and unfortunately, bad things happen here too.
On the night of April 19th, it was Dawn's turn to feed the animals, but she didn't feel well.
I feel a lot of guilt because it was supposed to be me that went out that night. And when he got here, he knew I hadn't felt good that day, and he said, "You're tired. Just go sit down, relax. I'll go feed."
She remembers being upstairs when she heard an explosion-like sound. She says she walked out the back door, looked toward the barn, and saw the headlight Jim wore shining from the ground.
And I yelled for him. he never answered.
Dawn says she ran to Jim and called 911. But she didn't know her husband was shot until investigators with the Giles County Sheriff's Department got to the scene.
They were fairly close.
Luke Tyson was one of them.
Probably a huge likelihood that Jim saw the individual that shot him.
He believes the individual who shot Jim in the chest knew the lay of the land.
There are electric fences that cover a large portion of the property. Pretty much the back side of the property was the only thing that didn't have an electric fence on it that night.
Since that night, Tyson says they've done grid searches on the property, used canines, even drained the pond. They say after months of weekly investigations, they have a person of interest, but there's a roadblock.
Really looking for location data on any individual in the area.
Tyson says they've submitted 90 search warrants to tech companies like Apple and Google, trying to find cell phone locations the night of April 19th. But it's not so easy.
We know it's out there. We're a small department, and we just don't have the means like some of these larger departments to track cell phone data, other electronic devices that may have been in the area. We just don't have that capability.
And while they wait for information from the tech companies, Dawn continues to make sure this county never forgets her husband. Drive down Linville's rural roads and signs with Jim's face and $1 million reward lines neighbors' fences. But no matter how much the reward is, Dawn believes the answers lie with the tech companies.
What you see on TV, in 48 hours, this mystery is solved, It doesn't work like that. And there are thousands and thousands of hours of work, day, night, that they're working to solve this, and they're so close. And I hope this person knows how close they are.
We're not just talking about 1 or 2 complaints or just a few bucks. We're talking about thousands of dollars and multiple complaints. And customers tell us they are fed up. Pamela Pryor describes her moving experience with Good Time Moving and Storage in 3 words.
A hot mess.
Pryor hired the company in December to move her belongings from Spring Hill to Oakland, Tennessee. She says they quoted her over $6,000 to complete the move.
I was required to pay a $200 deposit fee, and I utilized my credit card to secure that fee.
But on moving day,
my total was $9,700 and some change. I told him that no, I was not agreeing to paying that amount. How did you come up with that total?
And then came the credit card bills.
To my surprise, unbeknownst to me, they had charged my credit card 3 different charges totaling over $15,000, in addition to the $21.25 that I had already paid them in.
So we went to get answers. We called, emailed. Hi, is this Daniel? Is this Good Time Moving? And even went to the owner's office before we finally caught up with him in the parking lot. Hey, sir, got a quick question. Are you Daniel Kinjanda? Sir, can you all roll down your window for a second? I need to ask you some questions, sir.
If you are treating customers consistently like you've treated me, your business, I don't see how your business is going to last.
Teachers are speaking out tonight, detailing the trauma they say they endured while working at Oliver Middle School.
31 have now left Oliver since the start of the previous school year. Our Courtney Allen has been following this story for several days now. And Courtney, what's the backstory here?
Maurice, Lauren, a student is accused of bringing a loaded handgun to Oliver Middle back in April, and teachers claimed the way the school administration handled it put their lives at risk. It was the last straw for some. We talked to 5 of those teachers today. 1 still works at the school, 1 is unemployed, and the other 3 have transferred to other MNPS schools. Most spoke to us anonymously with their voices altered. 5 former and current Oliver Middle School teachers are speaking out.
Being in the cafeteria when the school went on lockdown, it became real for me.
Speaking anonymously, 1 former teacher says she was in the school's cafeteria back in April on the day a student was arrested for bringing a loaded handgun to school.
Is today the day that I have to die? Is today the day that I have to see a child die.
The teacher says she and her students were in the unlocked cafeteria with uncovered windows during the lockdown and says they were, quote, sitting ducks.
I don't want to have to shield kids with my body at work. And I have to deal with my mom telling me, I don't want you to be a teacher because I worry about your safety.
District spokesperson Sean Brasted told us last week that at no point were students in danger and the administration handled it appropriately.
The district said that the school was put on lockdown within a few minutes of the gun being found. Is that accurate from being there that day?
No, that's not true. It was probably about 30 minutes after, and they had already found the gun. The police had already finished.
The teachers asked to be anonymous for this interview in fear of retaliation.
I think some of us, even sitting here, are uncomfortable to talk about it. Because
I am most definitely, because I'm without a job now, so.
Wednesday, Noah Clare left his mark on the Tennessee state capitol.
Can you say, hi, I'm Noah?
Hi, I'm Noah.
He is the 4-year-old whose 2021 kidnapping captured the state's attention as authorities feverishly searched for his father, Jacob Clare. When Noah was first reported missing, the TBI issued an endangered child alert. It was eventually upgraded to an Amber Alert. Noah was found 2 days later.
We knew we wanted to be able to do something to help these kids that don't have a voice.
Noah's mom, Amanda Ennis, has been fighting ever since to accelerate the Amber Alert process. Wednesday, the governor signed a law bearing Noah's name.
We're so incredibly thankful for our representatives that helped us get here.
Noah's law allows parents to seek an order with a judge if a parent without custody doesn't bring a child home within 48 hours. The judge can then declare the child in imminent danger, one of 4 criteria needed to trigger an Amber Alert.
It's amazing, what this law can do for, the kids that don't have a voice.
Protesters say they're not just marching for women's rights following Roe v. Wade being overturned. They're concerned that LGBTQ rights could be next.
No peace! Protesters chanting and holding signs, walking from Public Square to the Tennessee state capitol. People like Callie Davis calling for change to protect abortion rights.
This isn't an attack just on women as a whole. This is an attack on people of color, LGBTQ plus communities, lower income communities, and this is mostly for them.
She brought a sign that reads abortion is health care and says it hurts to have 50 years of progress reversed with just one ruling.
When a vagina is more regulated than gun laws right now, it's kind of insane to think.
We are continuing to push for answers about how Nashville voters were able to cast a ballot in the wrong district. Election officials say they will not throw out the more than 200 wrong ballots or let the people re-vote.
It's the final uphill push for campaign workers like Joey Kameni to knock out potential voters before Election Day.
My name's Joey. I'm a volunteer with the Tennessee Democratic Party.
He has flyers in hand.
There has been an issue with people getting the wrong ballots. So
and warns voters to check their district.
Okay, and then about 5 houses up that way, there's a bunch more.
Before they go to the polls.
We only found out about these specific voters the other day when the Election Commission corrected it.
The problem is Joey never planned to knock on these doors.
No answer, so I'm just going to leave some literature.
But after the Election Commission found almost 200 ballots were cast in the wrong district,
I would imagine it's a lot more than that, probably.
He now must cover an area Odessa Kelly's campaign didn't know they had.
Yeah, it's a tough district. Yes, Republicans are gerrymandering as much as they can, but we're just going to run anyways. This house looks like somebody probably doesn't live here anymore, but we're going to knock anyways.
While some voters don't answer, others, like Elisa Bradford, do.
I'm not sure if you heard about the recent issue with people getting the wrong ballots.
I did hear that issue.
Yes, so actually this was one of the areas that was affected.
She plans to go to the polls on Election Day.
I believe every vote counts, and every vote's important.
The main message people like Joey want to push toward voters.
It was a pothole mishap Rebecca Stewart never expected.
The curtain side airbag went off and hit our daughter in the head and caused a mild concussion.
The vehicle's manufacturer told her after reviewing the incident, it was possible the impact from hitting the pothole could have triggered the deployment.
For manufacturers, I'd like to see them at least make an attempt to fix it where this stuff don't happen, just from hitting a pothole.
We drove from the Music City to the Motor City, where American car manufacturers are located. If there's any state that knows about vehicle safety and production, it's this one. Big ones, small ones, and every size in between. When it comes to testing potholes, Stellantis engineers not only drive over them, they build them at the Chelsea Proving Grounds. Is that a normal thing for like an airbag to go off on a simple pothole?
Based on my experience, that does not sound normal.
David Eichberger's experience includes over 3 decades in the auto industry and current head of the Proving Grounds. They handle about 85% of all of the company's testing for brands like Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, and Jeep.
We send very specialized vehicles that measure all the potholes and all the bumps and all the trenches and all the curbs. We measure the forces. We give that information to the engineers.
And they let us see how it works firsthand.
We're going to head out to our famed Chalma Road. This is a road that we reconstructed based on a very, very difficult course we found in Mexico many decades ago.
Every bump and thud along the way.
It hits over 1 million potholes in just 4 months.
Proving valuable information with real-world application.
We don't want the test to be too easy because then our vehicles will have quality issues in the field.
So we showed you what it looked like on Chalma Road as any driver would hit any pothole. This is what it looks like once it gets into the lab as they duplicate what we experience on that same road.
And if there's any anomalies, if there's anything in the data that doesn't look right, then we'll investigate and get that rectified.
It's here that Mark Champagne and other workers analyze the information from Chalma Road in real time with the help of a simulator.
We can take vehicles instrumented that have those extreme conditions and take the data from that, essentially transfer that data into the computer, then load with a test setup the exact same drive signature that you had on the Proving Grounds on this equipment.
For Mark, it's about doing everything in the lab and on the Proving Grounds to keep you safe when you get behind the wheel.
To me, the most satisfying thing is when it all comes together and you see a letter from a mother who's just thankful that the vehicle protected their child in an accident. It's super satisfying, very rewarding.
A rewarding feeling of keeping drivers safe, no matter what roadblock comes their way. In Michigan, I'm Carice Jackman, News 4 Nashville.
We're following some very sad news here at midday. We've learned that country music star Loretta Lynn has died at the age of 90. Terry Bolger has more now on her life and legacy.
Well, I was born to coal mine.
With a career that spans more than 60 years, Loretta Lynn's biggest hits were often inspired by her life. Born in 1932 in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, she was the daughter of a coal miner, one of 8. Married at age 15 to Oliver Lynn, better known as Doo. Lynn would take the highs and lows of her marriage and put it into song, often featuring lyrics about cheating husbands and mistresses.
Cause you ain't woman enough to take my man. That's lying, cheating, woman chasing.
She pushed the boundaries of country music in puffy, sparkly dresses, tackling controversial topics like the Vietnam War, divorce, and birth control, even having several of her songs banned on country music radio at the height of her career.
Often thought of as the matriarch of country music, Loretta Lynn's fans came to her beloved ranch today, paying their respects not just to the musician, but to the person. Outside the quiet gates of Loretta Lynn's home, where she died on her Humphreys County ranch, her fans came, offering flowers and memories.
It's a sad day. It's been a blessing to me to be able to live in her town.
Born and raised in Waverly, Lisa Box brought her grandchildren. Over the years, Lisa had naturally gotten to know some of the Lynn family, who from the top down always seemed to care.
Back in the day when I was younger, we could see her in Walmart and everybody would be so ecstatic to see her. And her husband, Mooney, was so down to earth. So they were really good people.
To the world, Loretta Lynn was a country icon, but to Sheriff and family friend Chris Davis, who led Lynn's body to the funeral home today, She was a pillar of Humphreys County.
We think of them as family. You know, we know that she is what she is in the public world, and she should be very proud of that, and her fans should be very proud of that. But at the end of the day, they're family to us in our community, and we want to take care of that right now.
Carol Simpson Cassada's former secretary was put on administrative leave following the FBI raid. And today was the first time she talked about what happened that day and her feelings about her former boss.
The day FBI agents walked through Cordell Hall with boxes from lawmakers' offices was the day Carol Simpson said goodbye to her job with Glenn Cassada.
I've been asking you to talk with us for over a year now, ever since the FBI raids happened. What made you actually come here today?
Because I want to help him. I want people to see the person that he really is.
Do you still support him?
Yes.
These lewd messages he sent about women.
He was single. You know, he was just wanting to be one of the guys.
Lick Creek's clear water is full of memories.
We would play in the creek when we were like children.
My family has been here 139 years. We've lived and farmed our farm.
And opportunities.
One of the reasons we bought this is because to be able to fish my own creek.
One thing it doesn't have in it, treated wastewater. But that could change.
We don't want it here.
A new wastewater treatment plant proposed by the Water Authority of Dickson County. It would discharge treated wastewater into Lick Creek, which flows into the beloved Duck River. In case you're not up to date on how wastewater treatment plants work, here's the general idea. Wastewater is piped into the plant, which would primarily remove solid waste and kill bacteria, but other potentially harmful substances like heavy metal, pharmaceuticals, and other chemicals may get missed and remain in the treated water that's discharged into the creek.
It's mind-blowing.
Organic farmers like Vance Johnson believe that puts their livelihood at stake.
We're going to be eating, instead of pure leafy greens, now poopy water salad greens. Our health is at stake.
A historic team of college gymnasts are starting to show their stuff at practice. The team at Fisk University is the first ever women's gymnastics team at an HBCU. WSMV's Michael Warwick went to one of their first practices.
For every move, there were cheers. Praise for each other.
Very nice.
Not only for the skill in these flips and tricks.
There we go. Come on. Yeah.
But for the choice they all made to be here. As the first ever women's gymnastics team at a historically black college.
It's nice for these girls to realize that there is, you know, an opportunity for them to go somewhere where they won't be one of. They'll be a part of the majority for a change.
Head Fisk gymnastics coach Corinne Tarver is getting to see these athletes up close for the first time.
Good. Watch those arms in landing.
Athletes who chose a rare opportunity that Tarver says was long overdue.
We are so blessed to be able to pick up such amazing athletes, because I was really worried at first how we were going to get the talent.
Most of these women, like Lebanon's Morgan Price, are lifelong gymnasts.
Come on, Mo!
Using this chance to fulfill a dream of being more than a college gymnast, but an HBCU one.
It's just so exciting and honoring to be able to do the sport that I love right beside them.
The season doesn't start until January, but every week up until then, this team will be putting in the work, because when their first season does start, they want to make a statement.
We just want to go out there and prove ourselves and just, you know, be the cleanest and sharpest that our team can be.
They'll be competing against teams from across the country, and sure, they want to shake things up and show the world just how good they can be.
It is so great because chemistry is everything with a team. They cheer each other on. They're excited about what this team can do.
That historic mission starts here with a sisterhood that doesn't need much work. Because that bond appears to come naturally.
Yeah, Mo!
Michael Warwick, WSMV 4.